When will it arrive, the first trailer for Fallout 5? After all, rumors keep popping up that the next iteration of the popular RPG series is already in the works. But is that even possible? The release of Fallout 4 in 2015 was around 7 years ago, and considering the fact that the multiplayer title Fallout 76 also has 4 years under its belt, the cries are getting louder and louder. When is a real sequel coming? When will there at least be an announcement or even a trailer for Bethesda's next post-apocalyptic RPG? Given the previous clucking, 2015, 2018, 2021, you might finally assume that now, a couple of years after Fallout 76, it's about time for Fallout 5. But a quick look at the release of Fallout 3 shows Bethesda took a stable 7 years for the successor Fallout 4, and considering they have a few other IPs in the works to take care of, we might be in for a wait. A job ad on Bethesda's homepage recently caused a stir because a server engineer was being sought for an unannounced game. However, anyone who is a bit familiar with how game developers work knows that studios often tinker with various prototypes and also hire staff for these, which in many cases does not even result in a finished game. So there's no way you can deduce Fallout 5 is already in the works from a job ad like that. About 420 employees work for Bethesda Game Studios. Sounds like a lot, but the development of a so-called AAA game also requires a lot of manpower. And Bethesda has several projects in the works that demand a lot of attention. For instance, Fallout 76 is an online game that needs ongoing support. So is The Elder Scrolls Online, but the fantasy MMORPG is not being developed by Bethesda directly, but by ZeniMax Online Studios. With The Elder Scrolls 6, however, the next big main part of the popular fantasy series is in the works at Bethesda, which will probably have massive dimensions. The game was already announced at E3 2018, but the release is, and this has been confirmed, to take place after Starfield. Starfield is a completely new science fiction IP, so it's set in an as yet unknown world and is said to feature survival and building mechanics. But back to Fallout 5. So far, there has been absolutely no indication from Bethesda that it is in the works. Both Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield, on the other hand, have already been officially announced. The latter will be released in November 2022. Rumor has it that we can expect Elder Scrolls 6 around 2026. So if Fallout 5 is developed by Bethesda, it might even take until about 2030? Poof. But there's another possibility. As we all know, Bethesda is now part of the Xbox Game Studios. Microsoft paid a whopping $7.5 billion for that. In addition to Bethesda, the Xbox Corporation also owns studios like Obsidian and In Exile. Both of these developers are tailor-made for creating a post-apocalyptic RPG like Fallout 5. Sure, Obsidian, the studio responsible for the legendary Fallout New Vegas, is currently working on Avowed, a fantasy RPG whose first teaser reminded me strongly of The Elder Scrolls. In addition, a team of the studio is busy with Grounded, but there are supposedly 3 unannounced games in the works at Obsidian. Could a new Fallout be among them? We don't know. In Exile Games boss Brian Fargo had already worked on the first Wasteland, whose spiritual successor was the first Fallout. Purely by chance, In Exile recently hinted at working on a first-person role-playing game. Granted, it's absolutely speculative, but perhaps Xbox Game Studios is using their concentrated skills to further develop the Fallout series. However, we shouldn't expect a Fallout 5 directly from Bethesda for the time being. Well, then I'll just continue playing The Outer Worlds again. And if you're wondering if there's any chance playing Starfield on your PlayStation, you can click on this video right here. See you!